Let's go.
Hi, I'm Elena from Gross Cultural Development, and this is Bending Culture, the podcast where we dive into the real life challenges, but also hidden opportunities of working across cultures. You will hear stories, strategies, few laughs along the way, all designed to help you to break cultural barriers and turn the differences into your biggest advantages and even maybe a global superpower. Whether you are leading a diverse team, working in an international environment, or simply curious about how culture shapes the way we connect, the way we collaborate, this is your space to learn, to grow, and to thrive. So let's get to it and bend culture together. And today we are doing it with Elsa Tranquillo. She calls herself a curious customer success specialist, right? That's a great name.
Yes, exactly.
She's a young professional with background in tech and support, and now she's working for a global logistic company in Rotterdam. She graduated from the University of Torino, and that is, for those who don't know, a place in Italy. And she moved to the beautiful Netherlands to build here her professional life. Now, I don't know about you guys, but all of my friends want to make this journey she made, but the other way around. So, what happens? Why she did make this move? Now, I know for sure it's not for the weather. And she told me that twice, like it's not for the weather when we were talking for the first time. But what she told me, I really want to share it with you guys because she will also talk about it later, I think. But Elsa told me that she prefers the work ethos of Northern European countries, Netherlands in particular, to the way how the professional life is conducted in her home country. Now, that is something I never heard before. So I'm very, very curious about it. And I'm very happy that Elsa agreed to join me today so that we can zoom in and talk about the beautiful country she's coming from and so many of us dream about, but also about the differences in work and lifestyle we very often miss and maybe get really surprised by. And by surprised, I mean in a good way and in a not such a good way. Elsa, welcome. Great to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. So let's dive right away. What is about this working way in Northern Europe that is so different than in Southern Europe or in Italy in particular
Sure.
that made you to make this move?
Well, it's a big topic, so I guess we will have a lot to talk about it. So, first of all, I would say that from my personal opinion, of course, the North European countries, when it comes to work, are a bit less hierarchical, more informal environment. And from respect to Italy, I really appreciate the possibility to be in a multicultural environment. So with people with different background, different experience, different country of origin, and so on. What I like more is that something that at the beginning was a big cultural shock. The fact is that during your lunch break, you can sit at the same table with your boss or your manager or supervisor, and maybe may end up talking about your last weekend or what did you do during the weekdays after work, which is really an informal setting and is something that is not so frequent or so common in Italy, especially in big corporations which are quite structured.
And why do you think it's important? Is it because you are from the younger generation and you want to break these hierarchical layers? Do you think that there are other Italian youngsters would appreciate that? Or is it something you're personal? What do you think?
I think it's part, of course, of a cultural shift. So probably the fact that I'm part of a generation that is rethinking work, so work environment, work habit. I also think personally that is quite important to create an environment in which everyone is safe to speak, because maybe manager or higher position may not notice something that someone that is doing the job at maybe entry level or intermediate level may notice. So when it comes also to business and profit, I think it's really important to have possibility of create environment for open conversation, for constructive feedback. And the fact that we here in the Netherlands, we see at times a less hierarchical environment, maybe favor this type of conversation, because I notice myself that now I get used to this direct feedback at work, that when I talk with my friends or family that are in Italy and still work in Italy, when I say, yeah, but why don't you say this to your boss there? No, we cannot, because in Italy it's more hierarchical. So you can say some things, but really in a formal and nuanced way, or at times you don't feel to say at all because maybe, you are afraid due to the fact that it's your boss. And so you consider a big figure.
Now you made me think, because does hierarchical leadership and hierarchical structures within organization a priori mean that the culture cannot be safe and open? I never thought about it. There are a lot of organizations I work with here in the Netherlands where very egalitarian, you are absolutely right. But it is still not a safe culture.
Yeah,
People
that's also true.
still are afraid to open their mouth, and they are not only foreigners or expats who are coming from cultures like ours, because Russia as well as Italy, very top-down countries. So do you think it's not possible to feel safe and open in an hierarchical organization?
Well, it's a good question, and I will make an example about this, because I think it all comes down to the people, because work is made of people and also company culture. For instance, when I arrived in the Netherlands for a while, I worked for a Chinese company. Okay? So even if I was still located in the Netherlands, this company is quite a Chinese culture, which is even, I think, more hierarchical than Italy. Exactly. So there was a bit more difficult to thinking, go to the boss and report something that can be improved. But for instance, with my manager, maybe because she was from China, so she had that background, but she also studied here in Amsterdam University. So, and she was also quite a young manager. I had the possibility to really open up, and talk with her, because she was able to create a climate of trust. So, I knew that whatever was that I had to report, positive or negative, I was safe with her. So I think it also comes down a lot about people.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I'm trying to figure out, yes, of course, when you are hierarchical, it's very difficult to give a direct feedback to your superior. But I think it's actually about the person who is on the top. And even in hierarchical country, you can make people feel safe and maybe not, how do you say it, giving critiques left and right, but still feeling safe as a person. Yeah, I need to think about it, but I think you're right. We cannot say hierarchical is not safe and egalitarian is safe. That will be too simplistic, I think. But for you, when you moved here, that meant exactly that, right? So you will be more open and safe here in the Netherlands. And is it so? Is it that how you feel in your organization today?
Well, I feel more
Where you work, so they cannot check it.
Okay. Generally speaking, yes, I feel safer. Of course, I believe that there are always ways to say things. And of course, it should be always constructive feedback. Also, keep in mind that at times something it's all about personal perspective. So I always say, this is my perspective. Maybe it's wrong, because I also acknowledge that I see only part of the process. And at times, there is something in the background that we cannot see. So that's why I think it's always important to create open relationship, trust relationship. I also prefer when the whole team sit down and, for instance, commit to a set of value, or when manager come to you and they are open to receive feedback, or you have one-to-one or whatever, you can feel like to talk. So I would say, in general, I prefer and I feel like safer. Of course, I completely understand that it's personal situation. I think it's quite important for me to speak up when I see something can be improved, because it's a matter also of showing up that you care about your job, that you really want to do the best. And at times we need just to adjust or create some situation for which people feel more empowered and can give the best for the company, the business, the people they work on, and so on.
Nice. No, I totally agree with you, because I think that we need to, if we see that something going wrong or we don't agree with something, it's more courageous to speak up. And I hope that, and I think it means that the businesses will be more human and better operated in the future. When you say that your family is shocked the way you talk to your Dutch bosses, do you think that they are like jealous that they would love to have that in their company? Or is it more like, okay, you do that, but we do it our way and we like it our way? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a good question again. Also a bit like personal, because some people like to share more. Some people instead prefer to have that boundary. Work is work, and then after 5, 6, whatever, I go and I forget about it. Generally speaking, I would say I think that some of them would like to have more open relationship, because I see how much some struggle, especially some of my relatives were like in military environment, which is extra hierarchical, let's say.
My father
And
was a
yeah,
colonel in the army, so I know
yeah.
the feeling. Yeah.
So, they struggle a lot with a lot of frustration and so on. So I think that, yeah, definitely they would be happier to have like another kind of environment.
But I think it's also, there are so many pluses over there that we don't have. I think that the relationships there are warmer at the
Yeah.
workplace.
Yeah, there are some moments in which people like share more, maybe not in the sense that they get into personal details, but for instance, it's quite common to maybe take a coffee all together at 9, or there is someone birthday, bring food, also lunch. Let's say in Italy, you have to forget about the sad toasty with the cheese. Or like, yeah, or like, your sandwich, because lunch is really a thing. In Italy, people have generally 1 hour, at times also 2 for lunch break, because we used to eat pasta, not a sandwich. Okay, you can eat a sandwich, but yeah,
No.
pasta is more common. Or also they used to have like business work related lunch. So maybe you see people that are sitting in a restaurant or in a bar with being wearing like a jacket, or we being quite formal and
Yeah.
still discussing about work, company, business is quite common. So I would say that, of course, the fact that you sit around the table and you eat all together is some conversation, some light jokes or this type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On one side, it's more hierarchical. On the other side, it is still a relationship based, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's
and the relationship may be even deeper, because here it's more like the weekend and stuff like that, but it goes on upper layer. It doesn't go
yeah.
quite deep. I'm curious. When you came to the Netherlands and got off the cultural shock that you had, you for your first job or second job was to work with Italian people as your
Yes.
customer. How was that? How was that experience? So knowing what you know now, being in Northern Europe, but still having this Italian heart, and how was it to
Yes.
work with Italian people?
I would say that it was positive also because it let me feel in contact with my origin country and
Yeah,
or keep on speaking the language, or getting some jokes, inside jokes, or some cultural shared reference. So I really like that part, but at the same time, I felt I was a bit of mediator, especially in the cultural sense, because what I experienced was that Italian, are quite nice and open, but they get easily emotional. So they may raise their tone of voice easily, they may get nervous easily. And, even for small things at times. And, I also needed to like explain to the colleagues or to the organization this cultural aspect, how to manage this, how to, calm down, because when a customer is really emotional, then it's also difficult to talk, to find a solution, to clarify what happened. Yeah. So, yeah, it was quite an experience.
if knowing the 2 points of view and having experienced that working with Italians on the other side
Yeah.
of an aisle, on the phone, let's just put it this way, what would be your biggest tip for organization to say, okay, we want to do business in Italy or with Italians? What would you advise them to do?
I think that knowing the language, it will be a big plus, because remember when I was working with Italian customer, not everyone was comfortable with English. So especially when it was like about phone conversation, because through email, yes, you can still use Google Translator, but especially phone conversation, there were some funny things happening, because at times I remember some people were quite inventing a new language.
Yep.
I remember once we got an email, some colleague got an email and asked me, hey, please, can you tell us what is written here? I looked at the email and I don't know, because it was kind of inside the language between English and Italian.
Okay.
So, so yeah, I would say the language is an important aspect. Also, maybe it's just mindset thing. So they see someone, they feel that person speaking Italian is more closer to them or the culture. And apart from that, of course, really the culture, how important is to sit together for lunch, to take a coffee, to, allow some sort of humor, let's say,
Yeah.
conversation.
Build a relationship.
Exactly. Build a relationship. No need to become the best friend or talk about your private life, but still show some willingness to build a relationship, I would say.
Yeah. And you had a kind of onboarding process, I hope, I think, when you started, and then in the second company. What do you think organizations can do to accommodate their South European or Italian employees better? What can be done by Dutch companies? Because what we often see the onboarding process is, here is a couple of pens, here is a notebook, here's your laptop, here is your telephone. Okay, welcome to the company. Does it work? Is it what should people, should organization be more aware of, that Italians want to feel at home?
Of course, a welcoming pizza would be appreciated, but maybe that is too much. Yeah, no, I would say that, of course, it's good to follow the standard procedure. For people that, come for the first time in the Netherlands, maybe, they will face some cultural shock. So a good idea maybe to introduce a sort of buddy figure. So a colleague, also from another department, or someone is still in the company, that can have some chat, let's say informal chat or coffee for the first weeks. So the person can also ask, hey, how is this? Or is it normal? Or maybe share some resources about the
Yeah,
Dutch culture. For instance, in Italy, we really value the communication, as I was saying. And in Italy, it's quite normal to have a meeting frequently, and also long meeting, even longer than 1 hour. So maybe here instead, I see everything is more like efficient oriented, more practicalities. So I would say also, like introduce the person to a different way of working that is more oriented toward maybe the goal, and more practical, more steps, and less, discussion, conversation, thinking together. Or
yeah.
there is, but in a different way.
Why do you think that Italians like to have long meetings? Is it like everybody talks longer and more?
Yeah, it may be. Actually, the point is that, like Italians, I think they like, of course, to talk and to exchange ideas, share. Partly, maybe it's also because the process is quite hierarchical. So you need to involve and listen to different opinions. Partly also because cultural stuff, like they like to share opinion, to check everything, to counter check with all the parties involved, and maybe to set some goals together. So, of course, especially if it's in a time framework of a conversation, and if more than one person is involved at different steps, then we need the manager to revise and this and that. Then this takes extra time for the conversation to be sorted out, and so more meetings or longer meetings. Yeah.
So people should be prepared that it will take a longer time to reach a decision or an answer in Italy than we are used to here in this part of the world, of this part of Europe.
Yeah, maybe, especially when it comes, maybe it's work related but public administration, there may be a need to go to different offices, or you go to an office, but then this office needs time to practice because it has to do internal approval. So yeah, it's more related for people that apart from work, they want to go and live there. Yeah, it takes time. Everything takes
Yeah.
time in the positive and in the negative. So you need to take the whole package.
Yeah. And when you say it takes time, because now we are getting to the most interesting part for me and for my couple of friends, who are listening now, because as I told you, I have a couple of friends who really looking forward to move to Italy. And what they are thinking about and what they are a little bit afraid of is that it can take so long time that it gets lost some way. How much time you need to prepare yourself? As Russian, I understand bureaucracy, right? So
Yeah.
we know all the stuff about bureaucracy and giving somebody a present in order to have some decision made and stuff like that. So is it really, the more you are outside of central Italy, the more bureaucracy takes place, and that is just accepted?
I would say, unfortunately, bureaucracy is everywhere. So if you live in a big
So
city,
Rome would still be the bureaucracy. Okay.
maybe it's even worse, but just because maybe if you go to the post office in Rome, you find more people than you go to the post office of a small town where there is just maybe one person waiting. So,
Okay.
of course, some practices are standardized. Okay. So, of course, region have some decision power, let's say some autonomy, but generally speaking, some practices are quite standardized. There are also some issues related to high workload and general lack of manpower. So maybe this also cause, works pile up and longer time, especially when it comes to the things related to public administration. And especially back in the days, everything was on hard paper. Now I see that gladly and luckily things are changing. So some things can be done online and you don't need to go anymore to the office in person, and probably this also means like less paperwork, so less time to process the paperwork. But also one thing is good to be persistent and follow up. Of course, if I ask you to do something I understand that cannot be done the day after, but maybe ask for a time framework. And something that we learn, especially in the south of Italy where I come from, is that you have really to push a lot. So be persistent, follow up. I know it may be a bit like time consuming, also personal energy consuming, but yeah, unfortunately it's like that. But it's really personal. Some people go with the flow, So no matter whether they have to wait 1 year or 6 months, they trust. So for instance, they are at the bus stop and they are waiting and they trust at a certain point the bus will appear. Which happens in the end. And I understand that if you have an appointment, you cannot just wait for the bus to come after a certain time.
Elsa, do you think it's possible for somebody like me or somebody coming from Northern Europe to move to Italy and not like like retired person, when you don't have to do anything, you just buy a house and you live there quietly and you enjoy the beautiful weather and the beautiful food. But do you think it's possible to say, okay, I'm starting a business there and being used to Dutch way or whatever American way of doing business, to say, okay, I can build a business in Italy as a foreigner?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. There are a lot of international companies and also like people starting their business over. Of course, it depends if you start your business or you work as employee. Anyway, I think that if a person has a flexible mindset, which I think is always required, is feasible. Especially if you are in the cities, in big cities, or like in north or center, where there are maybe more big cities and more infrastructure. For instance, in Milan, you can just take, there are several lines of metro. So for instance, you don't need to wait for the bus or whatever it is.
Yeah, I understand.
So maybe consider well the location, according to which type of business you want to start and what you need apart from the weather and the food. But of course, they're important. But
Yeah, I think that is what we're looking at. We somehow forget when we look at Italy. It's one of these few countries in the world we have like this pink glasses, You think that everything is sunshine and blue sea and gorgeous men and nice food. Why do you think this Italy has this magical effect on people?
true, of course, that there is good weather, food, and people enjoy life. And maybe since, especially in the south, we value a lot still, maybe the family or time spent with the friends. So maybe there are this kind of cultural values. I also think that in the last years, there has been like polarization of the narrative to a sort of idealizing the country or maybe showing just part of the life, because of course it's true that people maybe gather together on Sunday for Sunday brunch, but it's also true that it's a bit hard during the work days to wake up at 5 a.m. to do homemade pasta, we have to go to the office around 8 or 9. So I think it's important to have a sort of balance perspective.
Do you think Italy is an somehow easier country to move to than, for example, Netherlands? What I'm thinking now is that you are saying is that it doesn't matter if you want to build life in you or what kind of life, if you want to build professional life or it's working for the company or starting your own business, you need to work hard. And it doesn't matter, are you doing that in the Netherlands or are you doing that in Italy? It's everywhere. It takes hard work and really putting yourself out there. But do you think there are countries which are easier to get into the lifestyle? And more difficult?
I understand. Well, it always comes down to personal situation because for instance, myself, when I arrived here in the Netherlands, I was not able to even say hello in Dutch. But
No.
I soon realized that everyone was speaking like perfect English, maybe
Yeah.
even better than mine. I was shocked to see like 5-year-old children speaking like natives here in English. So of course, this helps a lot because I already had a lot of news to face and new things to get into it. In Italy, it depends. Not everyone is super comfortable with English. Of course, there are people that have a good fluency, someone does not speak at all, someone has basic level. So the language, it's a big thing, okay? And then also maybe personal issue related to need of visa or not. Unfortunately, some struggles are common. Also in Italy, it's difficult to find a house. Also in Italy, everything is getting more expensive and there is the purchase power is like not great. There is inflation and so on. And so I think it really depends because, for instance, I may decide to go and relocate in a small town in Italy where buying a house or renting a house costs me less. But maybe since it's a small and isolated town, it will be more difficult to work or to move from a place to another. So yeah, I think some struggle, unfortunately, are common, and it really comes down and depends on like personal situation and willingness, of course.
What would be your biggest advice? Because I heard already you saying, look good at the place where you want to go. If you want to move to Italy, look at the place. Is it more central or is it more south and more rural? And the language, of course. So be prepared that you need to speak some Italian if you want to make it successful. Other things that you can advise to the people who are dreaming about Dolce Vita.
Find a good place to eat pizza. No, I'm joking. Because this is the prerogative for people. No, it's just joking. Of course, trying to have like a less biased idea. Of course, as we say, there is this Dolce Vita part, but also study well the context where you're going in for your business. If you're looking for a job, but also the Italian job market is competitive, imagine if you're looking for an English speaking role. So maybe try to apply in advance or maybe find someone that offers some relocation service or assistance that can also assist you with bureaucracy, especially if you have to request a visa or something like that, because bureaucracy is quite complicated. It's complicated for us Italians. I can imagine for someone that comes from abroad and say, what is this? So really try to study well the place. And also if you can or you have some connection, I think it's always good because at the end of the day, it's what helps us. Maybe you don't know something or you need something, and also small human interaction or connection, someone that you know that already living there, or maybe I don't know if the company offer relocation, whatever. I think this is a great asset.
And if money or job or other housing were not the issue, which place in Italy would prefer to live in?
I think I will go back to my own region, which is Puglia. And probably also in Sicily. I know it's a bit mainstream, but Sicily is really like beautiful. There are a lot of places like nature. I like the fact of being in historical cities, I love Rotterdam, but for me it's all new, literally. And at times I miss the historical shant, let's say, to go and see, oh wow, this old building, just looking something different at architectural level as well.
Now, guys, you heard it. So I don't know about you, but I got some food for thought about Ganj. And I do have something to tell my friends about it before they start to pack in their things. Thank you, Elsa, for sharing your insight and for this lovely conversation about your lovely home country. And
Thank you.
as I said, guys, I'm sure you heard something today that gave you maybe some new thoughts and perspectives. Thank you very much, Elsa.
Thank you.
Guys, if you get inspired or curious about what you heard today and you want to go further in navigating our multicultural world, because you see, even 2 hours, 3 hours flying, and you get to a new world full of different ideas about food and work and stuff like that, join me in 3 weeks for another episode of Bending Culture, where we explore more ways to grow, to lead, to thrive in a global environment, or maybe in a European environment with a new inspiring guests. And I always finish with my personal ask. Please subscribe. It's totally for free. Support the channel, support this podcast, leave a review because I love to hear your feedback, because today with Elsa, we did some zooming in one country. And so I'm very, very curious how you liked it. Would you like to hear about other countries so that we can invite guests here to tell about their home countries and maybe tell you stuff that you never thought about before? Until the next time, this is Elena from Cross Cultural Development. Let's keep bending culture together to shape a thriving, inclusive business world. Thank you, Elsa. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.